Walk with me through the cellar door. A storm is coming, Francis. A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Oh, welcome to another Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. If you notice, I got the winter cap on. It's cold outside. It's definitely winter here in Michigan. I can't complain too much. I guess we had snow on Christmas and I didn't have to go anywhere. But you know how it is. It's kind of one of those things that you would prefer to not have to deal with. Because who the fuck likes snow unless you're a Canadian? That being said...
I reject that remark. I do not particularly care for the snow, especially not after what I dealt with last week. So...
Are you sure? I don't know. I'm pretty sure all Canadians love snow. Like, that's the reason you live there, isn't it?
That is a harmful stereotype, sir, and we need to disavow of this prejudice immediately.
Just like I used to think all Canadians like whiskey until I met you, and then it's like, I just drink the whiskey. I don't even know what kind it is.
Oh, that's totally me. I don't really understand a whole lot about whiskey or scotch to be general. That's probably why a lot of people look at me and be like, you don't drink real scotch or real whiskey, or they don't let me pick such things because I'm like, I go with what I can afford, and I can afford nail polish remover. How does that work? No? Oh, okay. I'm blind.
Fair enough. And maybe it's a little bit warmer in the south. I don't know,
No.
Hannah, tell us. No? Not warmer in Ohio?
It rained all night last night.
That's warmer.
So all the snow melted, and now it's all frozen because it's a sleety, icy mess. And I didn't manage to fall and break my arm on the way out to the recycling bin a few moments ago to dump all of the Christmas empties that had been piling up in my office.
Fair enough.
But other than that was my first thought. I was just like, I finally got through COVID. I'm going to fall and break my arm. And then that'll be another reason why I'm trapped in the Clevelandburg home for another couple of weeks or something like that. So I don't know. The weather's up and down here. It's just wet. It's been slimy, sloppy wet. After I shoveled 12, 13 inches of snow Christmas morning. So, yeah, I don't know. All I know is that I want the steroids to end. My body's insane, and
So are you like just practicing sports with the Russian team or?
No. The I got the Russian Alex Navalny. They shot me with what's the thing they tried to kill? The
uranium, wasn't it?
It was a poison. Anyways, they gave me a run of steroids, and it's just made my body just explode in insanity. And I'm assuming it's gonna kind of come back down to normal. My face is all puffy and whatever. So I've been just hiding and building my girls a bedroom frozen winter castle bunk bed thing, and waiting for the chaos to subside. So I don't know what temperature is outside. That's basically what I've been saying.
Well, fair enough. It is. If it's raining, it's definitely warmer than it is in Michigan. And I'm pretty sure based on some of the pictures I've seen of Canada, it's even more warm than Canada currently.
Oh.
But we're not here to be weather predictors. That's not the idea of the show. None of us have that degree, or we'd make a lot more money. I will tell you that I did not have COVID. I ended up with a bacterial infection. And they gave me antibiotics, and I ensured that they went down, and I no longer have bacterial infection. I'm guessing. At least I don't have a fever.
I wish it would have been bacterial for me, but I don't know. We're back to normal. So hopefully everybody else also your holidays, the three of us obviously, but everyone else, anybody who's watching or anybody that we interact with, they all stay safe and healthy and happy for this week and for last weekend and the 2-week chaos that we're all worried about for exposures over the holiday breaks for people who aren't particularly smart or well versed in science. Hopefully, that week after New Year's isn't going to be a really, really bad week.
Yeah. So what we're going to do tonight is a couple of different things. We're going to look at the COVID relief bill. We're going to see where it's at currently, what the bill actually says. We won't go line by line through 5,500 pages, but we will definitely go through the bill. We had a couple of requests, actually, people complaining, and rightly so, about the bill and the ridiculousness. And then I did some other research that said, hey, what goes into some of these bills, right? Why does this shit even happen? And is there any way we can actually reform what's happening? Hence, that's the reason we call this the Christmas tree bill show tonight. Because I didn't know that. But, I guess when you stuff a bill full of wants and wishes, they call it a Christmas tree bill. I thought it was the weirdest thing. I don't know, Keith, in Canada, what do they call it when they overstuff a bill?
I've never heard of anything like that. All I know about is the basic political ploy of, here's a bill that we've chocked full of, or we've decided is about this good-natured thing. So, for example, like the veterans or whatever, improving benefits for veterans after they're done, going off and doing imperialistic things and then coming back and having to deal with mental health issues instead of just throwing them to the cold. The party will try to present something, like we give them better health care or better access to various resources, etc. And then just to try to get that passed, they'll sneak in something, or just to get something else passed, they'll sneak it in, especially if they know it couldn't get any sort of popular traction. But that's just a popular political tactic that we constantly see on both sides of the border. So
what I've seen is basically just people do a bill that's absolute guaranteed to pass. So a federal stopgap measure or a federal spending measure, and they'll just put their pet projects in it. So something that should just be basically, here's some funding, that things that need to be running. And then it's this is 19,000 pages long. Where did all this come from? And just everybody knows that it's political suicide to vote to shut down the government. So everybody rolls up their aunt and their uncle and their weird cousin who eats spam on dry bread and stuffs it in there.
Yeah. And we'll get to that here in a few minutes. There's one topic I wanted to talk about before that. And I've actually canceled our answering conservative questions segment for the week. Because I wanted to spend a lot of time on the bill and what goes into it. And like I said, I actually looked at how this began, what year it began. Did the founding fathers even consider this a part of the Constitution? So we're going to spend a lot of time on the bill tonight. But before we get into that, I wanted to actually look at a bunch of civil rights groups actually were given priority to talk to Biden's Justice Department.
Wow.
And that's from us, that's pretty big, because I don't think anybody's usually gotten that much say ahead of time. Usually you could get audiences and things like this afterwards, but they've gotten this at the beginning of December. And so there was a couple of different groups that met with virtually, which maybe makes it easier because before in the past, if you think about it, nobody did virtual things. And now people are like, oh, we're doing virtual things. So it kind of makes sense why we're seeing more meetings. Hence, in my world, I went from 4 to 5 meetings a day up to 8 now easily because we're all remote. So yeah, I have a fun day some days. I go meeting, run to the bathroom, meeting, run to the bathroom.
Why?
And then if I get lucky, I get my lunch break. Usually people are very nice. They give us, 11:30, 12:30, no meetings. Every once in a while you have a 12:30 meeting and you're like, why? But whatever, it is what it is. So, but anyway, these groups met with Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and Representative Cedric Rich, which is essentially going to be the president's senior advisor. And I don't know, do I think really honestly saying president elect? You know, like I think saying this, we know it's going to be him in 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, normally, yeah, I would just continue saying president-elect, and I wouldn't be worried at all. But
Either way,
I mean, it's I honestly cannot say, yeah, it's absolutely going to be Joe. I cannot do that. That's how the world is now.
so civil rights leaders said, essentially met with them, and they talked about, a couple of different things. They were given an hour, and they actually went an hour and 45 minutes. And they actually, what they wanted to talk about was racial wealth gap, the diversity of the cabinet and sub-cabinet appointments, avoiding double standards for black appointees, restoring the Justice Department, police and criminal justice reform, voting rights, judges, and more. So some of that is probably a little bit normal. Like your judges, yeah, I mean, I get this. Judges are typically a thing that's always talked about. That's going to be a harder sell for them. But one of the things that they talked about was racial equality, which if you go back about a month, maybe a month and a quarter ago, we actually touched on his plan that he rolled out. One of his pillars was racial equality, right? That's a big issue in America right now, if you hadn't noticed, and is continuing to be an issue. And I have a feeling this summer is going to get worse, once it starts to get warming out and people have the vaccine, so they can protest even harder. And they essentially, what they wanted to do is they say, you haven't appointed an attorney general, but we want somebody that has a civil rights background. Now, one of the big things we committed to in this show, because we don't believe that Democrats are the right people for the job. We just feel they're better than the other people, right? We want others in the minority communities to voice their opinion so that we have direction to help push that objective down the road, right? We don't want a non-progressive America. We want a progressive America. I would say
we're not looking to drive. We're looking to support. Like 3 white cis dudes on a podcast. We're looking for guidance. We want these groups, these people who are living they lived through Black Lives Matter. They protested in the streets. They are the ones that know what they want. And if we agree with it, which in most cases I'm assuming we can support them. Because I don't want to take someone else's thing. You know what I mean? Like they always say that, white cis whatever appropriate someone's culture or somebody's message or somebody's protest, and so this is their thing. We need to help them, and that's kind of what we should try to do here.
Yep. And so the big thing is that they, Reverend Al Sharpton was talking about having a black attorney general, and if not specifically that, finding someone that has a proven civil rights background. So what they're looking for is they're saying, hey, we don't want somebody that has a criminal justice background. We want somebody that's been part of the movement in some way, shape, or form. We prefer them to be black, but if it's not, at least give us somebody that has gone through the ringer and is not just going to start day one with on-the-job training. I mean, and some of it is, in my opinion, we talk about Kamala Harris, right? She has experience, but she's definitely not the most progressive Black Lives Matter voice out there. She's just not.
Yeah, I mean, just for her history in the judicial or the justice system and everything. I mean, there's tons of background of history of why we were actually not supporting her when she ran for president, because of her history with locking up minority groups over small term drug offenses and stuff like that. Like she is much more progressive than Mike Pence per se, but she's not going to be the kind of leader that we would have elected if given total and free reign.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nope, and I agree. So, that's kind of one of their discussions that they had, right? I mean, and they had a lot. They NAACP Legal Defense Fund was there. IFIL was there. They were also talking with the Leadership Conference of Civil and Human Rights. So they had quite a few different groups that are saying, hey, we really want to look at the Justice Department and how we could transform America, right? And if you give me a second, I'll bring up there's another article that came out in the Times that actually talks about even more things that they're looking, to do as well, right?
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of damage that has been done. And if we don't start to go through this, we're just going to keep walking back, and it's not going to be as easy as it could be. And if we talk about, they talk about the 4 pillars, like we talked about, they talk about what is he going to do? He's going to have the most diverse cabinet. Okay. So great. I'm glad you got a diverse cabinet. They talk about who he picks, but what they're looking for is they're looking to essentially have people that have been involved in the civil rights movement. That's a big thing for them. They also want to create a committee for radical justice where essentially they are going to be able to hold the president-elect and the vice president-elect accountable, right? So they want a separate committee that will start holding the government accountable because they have a great deal of confidence, but it's still Biden and Harris, it's still 2 people that don't have the best track record. I mean, it's not like Martin Luther King Jr.'s here, folks,
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's the idea of the compromise. So like the fact that these groups are getting access to president-elect and vice president-elect is good. That's good news because after the election happened and it was looking like, okay, a lot of this protest and a lot of these questions about whether or not the election was legitimate and valid that the Republicans are putting out, these groups they were like, okay, cool, fine, whatever. As soon as it's legit, we want to start talking. You ran on Black Lives Matter. You ran on civil rights. You ran on bringing in minority groups into your campaign, and we voted for you. We want to be heard now. It's like they were waiting, and finally, it seems like they're finally getting their voice. The question is whether or not this is lip service. These people are going to get a chance to talk to the president, and he's going to go, okay, and he's just going to do his own thing. Like, I'm really hoping that's not the case, and I think that would be a massive, massive about face and a mistake if this administration takes the advice that these people give, but just kind of waters it down and never really pushes hard. But so a centrist do as centrists do. That's going to happen no matter what, because almost every group of a civil rights group that's meeting with these people, they are more progressive. They are more progressive than the administration they're meeting with. So like they're all going to lose a little bit of what they really, really want. Like I really hope they try at least at the beginning. If Biden really pushes hard, just to show, hey man, I am trying. And McConnell's guaranteed 6 years, dude. Like that's he may not be the majority leader, but McConnell's going to be there for 6 more years before he has to worry about any kind of election.
Oh, I thought there was the runoff elections coming up where they could potentially get rid of him.
All that decides is whether or not he's in charge of the Senate, but he's still there. He'll be minority ruler of whatever if he doesn't win, if they don't win the majority. But like that changes everything too. So like there's a couple of things that'll make a big difference, but this is just good news that the president is talking to these people and they deserve to be heard. And I mean, the more the merrier.
I mean, it's definitely a lot more that we could say for the current administration. All they use groups like this for is, what was that Donald Trump said? Oh yeah, look over here, I'm my African American. Like that. Yeah. They're actually being seen, and not just seen, but heard, and given a chance to get some spotlight and some attention and get their voices out there instead of just being used as a, I have a black friend.
God, it's so true.
Now, you're right with that, Keith. I think the big thing that that they're talking about is what is his plan. Tell us what your plan is to eliminate the racial wealth gap, right? What are you going to do? Talk about distribution plans for the vaccine. Those are the things. I mean, they're specifically calling out what they want. Education equality is important. And it's funny because the representative I worked or ran with, I guess I worked for, I didn't actually run. I helped him run. And one of his big thing was education and quality. And I thought that was unique, honestly, when I talked to him, because you don't hear a lot about it, right? And then all of a sudden he goes, no, you don't understand. It's not just about us getting, good schools in poor neighborhoods. He's like, it's forcing people to treat us with respect inside of the schools. We don't need to have all this top-down help if you gave us the same treatment you give white people in fancy schools in rural America or in Black America. And it all goes back to like what you said. It don't be the token. We don't need that token. We want you to actually work for us. And I think that's, the big thing that came out of here was that for me was education reform and wealth gap reform, essentially. I don't know what else to call it. It sounds dumb to say wealth gap, but that's what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
So, any last thoughts before we move on?
Just, I hope it goes well. I mean,
Yeah.
We're outside the system. Like we are, we're lay people. We're politically plugged in. We're involved with our political systems and our local election systems, but we're not there on the floor. And all we can hope for is that people do the right thing. Right. Like we grew up hearing the golden rule and doing the right thing and taking care of people and, finding the best way to make society better and all the other taglines and holiday special phrasing. But like, I haven't seen a whole lot of it in my lifetime of people really like, I disagree with you thoroughly, but I do think we need to figure something out and let's work on it. Like that is so rare. And I don't know. I hope these groups can find a way to disagree, but both go in the same direction.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You had a comment up, and I guess I don't know how to answer that. So go ahead, buddy.
Oh, I was just clicking away. This one, the Mike 1234. Sounds like the what was it? Spaceballs. That's the password on my luggage. No. I wonder how he says basically how I wonder how big tech will be handled this administration. So the backlash and everything that we're seeing, there is some backlash. I commented on there. It's just I suspect big tech will be given deference, but not complete freedom. Like $1.9 trillion, I think, was the total value of increased wealth by 10 people or something like that during this pandemic. Like a crazy amount, like centi billionaires. So like 100 billionaires. That's a new thing now. And there's a level of money and power and insane control that comes at that level. Jeff Bezos, last I heard, makes $9 million an hour.
$9 million an hour?
9 million plus an hour. It varies between 13 and 9 per hour. Per
1
hour.
billion, jillion, billion, billion, billion.
That's his income. It was something like $300,000 a second or something like that. Like we're talking just
at that point, breaking into his house and robbing him blind is really a victimless crime, right?
Dude. So like, a 0.5% swing in big tech, right? A 0.5% swing in big tech for him could close a company down, just utterly destroy it, and poof, nothing. I saw an interesting comment. So like, this is a great example of it. So this is an example that I saw that was floating around Reddit that could be connected to this topic, is that Amazon, obviously Amazon, there was a company that started up selling tripods. They had this interesting design. They sold something like $3.7 million worth of these things. A successful startup company selling this thing. Amazon copied the design as part of their Amazon's Choice, whatever. And then they banned that company or shut that company out and locked them out and just used the power of their market and their will. And they probably didn't have a patent because it cost thousands and years to get patents on designs and things. Jesus. And so that's the kind of stuff that Facebook and Instagram and Google are in trouble for right now with like, hey, there's a company that's got an innovative new idea. We're gonna copy it and we're gonna just destroy them and they'll disappear. So like that kind of like, Jeff Bezos doesn't quite seem to have gotten stuck with anything like that yet. And so like
Shocking.
Bezos and all those other guys, like I would love to see the administration do something with them, but I don't know.
I don't think they will, personally.
I don't either.
And I think when we actually talk about these riders and poison pills and Christmas tree bills here in a little bit, like we're going to make some recommendations. I don't think the current administration is going to ever change that. I don't think Congress and I don't think any of these people care, right?
No.
And when we get to that in a few minutes, we can kind of come back to this tech thing, but I think it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same thing. You know, there is going to be a lack of belief in changing a system that benefits them, I guess. So, but to begin with,
we could do a conversation about antitrust law again. That would be fun to do.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, next year we can do that. I think that's a good point. I have not been back to that topic, and I don't know, would we do that a year ago? Year and a half ago?
Somewhere around there. Yeah, basically we just talking about the changes that how they used to treat antitrust law. And I read a book not too long ago about it. So I got maybe some newer updated ideas and trends and stuff. So I don't know, it'd be a fun topic if anybody's interested. Let us know if you think it'll be fun to talk about. If you have some cool insights, Mr. Mike.
So the essentially this is from today. The House has approved the $2,000 check. So I guess let's give a little history here. It's taken them like 4 fucking months, and I don't understand why, to come up with a COVID relief bill that's worth billions of dollars, and we're gonna all get $600 if you make less than 75 grand a year. Yeah. And so there you go, $600. We haven't seen anything since April. All right, thanks.
That's 9 cents an hour,
everybody. I don't know if you
guys saw the math on that. It was like
job.
9 cents.
Good job,
by the way.
Oof. Everybody gets a round of applause. All right, good job.
Yeah. So then Trump decided over the weekend, Trump tweeted out, "I'm not signing this bill. Why are they not $2,000 checks? That's the only thing acceptable." We're like, what? Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Where the hell were you like 2 months ago when we asked you to push this? We've asked you, you asshole. And oh, by the way, you might have actually won more support, you dumbass, if you had pushed it like this through the legislator a long time ago.
I'm not necessarily sure about that one. I think he would have really suffered with his fan base because they would have been going, "Oh no, Trump's doing all socialisms again."
They didn't before though, buddy. They love
that $1,200 adult and $500 per kid,
just
dude.
ate that shit. It was like somebody pooped in a toilet, and then somebody's like, "Ooh, let me scoop that out. Let me put a bowl, put some sprinkles, a couple cherries on it. Here you go." It came from Trump, so it's gonna taste like ice cream, guys.
The big thing was that it was a single. It wasn't a UBI. So like it was a bailout, it was a stimulus as opposed to a regular payment.
As opposed to helping people pay their bills.
That's just how they framed it. I saw that framed so many more times. Like, this isn't socialism. This isn't a government handout. This is a stimulus to prop up, to boost the economy. Whatever capitalistic thing you wanted to go through. So
what I hear,
they framed it. And so Trump basically did no.
What I hear is that we may have a way of trying to market UBI and socialism as long as we use the right phraseology. Guys,
yeah,
let's bank on this. Come on.
Yep, I don't disagree with you, and it's kind of funny because Andrew Yang I've been following Andrew Yang's tweets because they're pretty funny, and they're actually pretty relevant, and I'm not as opposed to him as I was, 8 months ago, but it's just kind of funny some of the stuff that he's been saying. It's like, okay, But anyway, so Trump tweeted out and put a video on Twitter. So this is not like this is an official statement of some sort, but it's only on Twitter. It wasn't, released on the White House Gov website or anything. So I don't understand. I don't understand the logic in it. I don't even understand how that works. That's a whole different topic. But essentially, he's saying, "Screw you guys, give me $2,000 checks." And so the House is like, "Well, hold on, okay, we wanted that." And Bernie's like, "Did Did anybody listen to me? I know I'm an old coot, but I mean, for fuck's sake, I've been saying this for how long now? Anyway, so they're now the House is now sending this bill back with $2,000 adjustment per person. Now, I don't know if everybody needs that. I don't know what everybody needs. We're going to go through the bill in a few minutes because the bill's outrageous in itself.
It's huge.
But
it's the massive $900 billion stimulus package. They've adjusted the single payment to $2,000 instead of $600. AOC and Pelosi and everybody wanted to do it, but nobody thought there was any political will. But when 1/3 of the 2/3 say, "Hey, we'll do it," then you all of a sudden have a majority, and Mitch McConnell actually has to give it some time. So,
yeah, so we'll see what they do, because that
Trump
went
is
through
doing
today.
his thing.
Yeah. Now here's the best part, and this I go to BBC News quite a bit now.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, and this is the BBC World, US, and Canadian news. So, by the way, buddy, you're lumped in with
It's North America. It's North.
It could be worse.
No, I don't think
I
it
don't know
can,
how,
man.
but
Well, hold on.
I'm sure.
What if Trump ran for prime minister in Canada? Dude, there you go. That's the segment I want. I want to know what it takes to run as a prime minister in Canada, and we're going to start a campaign to get Trump to try and run as prime minister.
I'm going to bet you that it's got a birth requirement.
Yeah, actually, it would have to be proved that he were Canadian enough. Because we have had dual citizens running for leadership, and there's no illegality behind that. So I think if Trump became a Canadian citizen and he were to convince, I don't think the Canadian Conservative Party would let him, but I think the People's Choice Party might.
So what I want from you, buddy, this is a segment we're going to do next year. I want to actually go through what's this process, and I want to know if this is something that Trump could actually do. Maybe we shouldn't tweet that out. Don't anybody tweet out the Trump thing as prime minister.
There's not enough money in Canada for him.
Yeah, well, you never know. Anyway, so we could talk about that another day. So this is what the BBC is saying about America, right? You know, we have millions of people on unemployment, and we have devastating effects because the president has not signed this one payoff. Now, I'm going to be frank. If $600 makes your day, then I'm okay with that. But I'm going to guess. I'm going to just throw this feeler out there. I'm guessing that 95% of Americans could use the $600, but probably don't absolutely. It will not be life-changing, or it will not fix their current economic situation. And I say this because I have a friend who's been unemployed since COVID, who has drug and alcohol problems, essentially. And really, if he were in a socialist country, would be on disability, would be given better health care, and at least get his medications to allow him to be normal. But without those, he has other issues, and then he drinks extremely heavily, and it's shutting his body down. But anyway, $600, you know what that buys him? That buys him probably 2 to 3 weeks worth of booze.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it might pay his rent. But the bigger thing is where the fuck's the unemployment extension? Where is the unemployment enhancement? You know, what are we going to do for the people that have been laid off? The people that have lost their businesses? Those type of people.
So that was part of the show, right? So like you mentioned basically that Trump was like $2,000, like, so it's part of the show. All he's doing here is peacocking the same way big execs do, and on all of Wall Street and all these New York Fifth Avenue, they put on their spiffiest, snazziest, pinstriped, whatever, cut out of sad baby skin suit that they have, and they go on. They go into the boardroom and they flash some kind of thing. And we actually, Aaron Furlong posted on my wall about when I basically was like, you know, I haven't seen the signature. Basically saying, never be afraid to walk away. You know, essentially he was praising Trump's strategy for essentially showing that he's willing to walk away. There's no guarantee. You always have to negotiate. And my basic thought on that is that, so what did he get, right? What did he get by saying, I'm not signing this. You need to give me a bigger check in the end. What did he do? What did he actually negotiate that was better for a better deal? He went golfing, and then he signed the same bill he refused to with the same amount of with the same stimulus. And all he did was say he wanted a bigger stimulus. And now the House is sending him a revised bill with a bigger stimulus. He has done absolutely nothing but just shake his feathered hair around. And people think he's negotiating because they don't understand. He doesn't have any actual skills besides bullying people.
But hold on, though. I'm gonna interrupt, and I'm gonna disagree a little bit with you. And I don't disagree that he doesn't have great skills, but to some extent. And again, you and I just don't agree with what his business life and how he handles his business. So you and I just don't agree with. We don't agree that it's ethical. Let's just be honest. He has business saboteur that has allowed him to get where he's at, and I don't give a fuck. There's another word for you, buddy. Jot it down. Yep, I know. I'm still waiting for that video where you have all of my misconstrued, misconfigured words. But
no, because have you seen 12 Monkeys where Brad Pitt loses his mind? That's what happened with Keith. Anyways,
okay, fine. Fair enough. We might want to be very careful because there's a big subplot in 12 Monkeys that I hope does not happen. Because we don't want to get into that. But okay, so I don't disagree that Trump probably doesn't understand how through the government to work, right? You know, like we're seeing this in the bills. We are seeing that. He was guided in how he placed judges. Those judges were not somebody that was like, oh, this person's in my head. Because if that was the case, he would have every niece and nephew as a judge, whether they deserve to be or not. We know that. We know that's how this works because he was able to hire his fucking kids who had very little experience in their area of that they're serving. But Trump does know to some extent how to negotiate in business when you have a lot of money and a lot of authority. He does have some saboteur or whatever the fuck you want to call it when it comes to that. He does have that. Now, will that happen here? Is this just a peacock move? Or will we see, and you don't know the answer to this because this happened today, will you see some people in the Senate, some Republicans, actually side with him who have basically said the election's a fraud, blah, 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 blah. Will we see those people side with him? I don't think there's enough of them to push that bill with $2,000 in it through before the end of the year at all. But I do think there are people that will side with him, and I'm wagering $10 to $20 on this. And $20. I'm wagering on this proposition because I feel that even if he is peacocking, he is still using it as a legitimate, aggressive way to say, look, I still did something good for the public, guys. I'm good. I did things. Yeah. The election was a fraud, but I still got you some money. Now, will you please overturn the election so I could be president for another 4 years? Because look what good things I do.
Or keep donating to his Trump fund. Donate to his party, which is really just putting money back into his pocket.
Keep giving me money. That's what I want.
Keep paying for these lawsuits. Don't read the fine print.
I don't think that he's completely nonsensical and stupid. Basically, my argument is that in this case, there has really been no movement and there's no risk for him because all he has to do is say, more money, we need to do more money. And if it doesn't happen, he looks like the good guy. Mitch McConnell looks like the bad guy.
But is that true for all presidents? Let's just.
I know that.
Okay, come on, let's be honest. If Obama did the same fucking thing, would you sit here on this podcast right now and be like, yeah, Obama's peacocking? Or would you be like, no, that's a respectable thing to do? I mean, let's be frank. Let's be honest.
I would say that Obama was being a piece of shit if he was doing that without having any actual, like, these are the arguments that we used to say, like, Obama said he wanted to do universal health care and he really wanted to push stuff. And then when it actually came through, he never actually did anything. Like when he really pushed things, like these are the arguments that I had against him as a centrist. Trump just does it more flashy. Like everybody says like he's such a great negotiator. Like, well, I mean, he's noisier. He's just noisier. And I don't think that this will be a case where a major change in the negotiations. I think the end result is going to be basically the same. Mitch McConnell is going to use his cudgel. Everyone will get 600. I honestly don't think that's going to be the 2,000. It's too much. It's too good. And even then it's not enough, but it's still too good for, that. And there's a major election happening in Georgia right now, and to see the Republicans get steamrolled into handing out $2,000 per person, just all like everything about it strategically is a bad move for the Republicans to do it in the Senate. And Trump just he has no risk by saying it, and he will not be president in a couple of weeks, and so he looks good no matter what. And so he could have signed and done everything that he did. My argument here is that he could have done it a couple of days ago. He could have done it like right before the end, and it would have been like he could have danced in the Rose Garden and made a big deal about it, and just done it right before, as opposed to the day of or after a lapse and causing trouble and causing problems in the bureaucracy and the red tape and everything. He just made things messier for the people who are actually working in the government and made himself look maybe good, but probably no different.
Okay,
like, it's just
fine. I'll grant you that. I'll 100% grant that, because you're right. He has done nothing until Saturday.
A couple of days earlier or whatever.
Yeah. He could have done this before. And again, I'll disagree with all of you on this. I 100% think if he had fucking pushed this shit before the election, it would be even closer than it is now. And that's just my personal opinion. He would have done it on
like October 20th, like pass a $2,000 stimulus for every American.
Yep. Or a small business stimulus. Can you imagine what would happen if he said, all big business, I just want to give to small business. I'm not going to give to anybody but small businesses and extend the unemployment right now. Fuck you. If
your company makes under $500,000 a year, you get 20 grand.
You would win. Yeah, all these small restaurants, all these things. Oh my God, like
they could spend.
Why are we not being paid to do his job? Damn it! Why are we not on his campaign? We should fucking have ran to be on Trump's campaign. Because these ideas right here is what would have won his ass. 100% would have won him the election very easily. No matter how many people are pissed off. Like, I got a friend who owns
you shake
a brewery.
Rush Limbaugh's hand and be like, yeah,
no,
we did it.
I wouldn't do any of that shit because I hate all those people. I would sabotage it. I would burn it from the inside. And then I'd be poor as hell and lose my house, and people would try and kill me. That's how it worked. I'd have to move to Keith. Like, my whole family would just be like, we're going to Canada. Keith, will you sponsor us? Can you sponsor us, Keith? We really need you to sponsor us. Yep. Okay, good. All right, he's sponsoring us.
Mohawk Vodka.
I have a little bit of savings. I'm going to transfer it to you so they can't take my money. But yeah, anyway, whatever. So let's go into the bill.
COVID thing. So the House is sending a $2,000 revision. Yep. None of us are particularly expecting that to go through, but the 600, yeah, probably.
So we're going to move past all that because I don't care. I'm done with that. I'm moved on. This is the actual bill from a week ago that has been pushed through to his desk that he essentially vetoed and now signed, right? And so if you notice here, they have a table of contents. Look, it's 5,000. It's almost 5,600 pages, by the way. And we will not go through everyone.
Like 4 hours before they had to vote on it.
And we'll talk about that too, actually, in a few minutes. Like that's a thing. That's actually a whole tactic. Anyway, so they talk about there's all these different, agricultural rule, development, Food Drug Administration, related agencies, and I'm sitting here going, what are all of these even in here? Do we not need to just pass a bill to help alleviate, the time, right? But they also have Defense Appropriation Act for the military budget, energy and waste the appropriations for financial services and general government. So here's one. This is important. We're gonna go to this one. Remember this, buddy. This is your one job today. Just remember this. Title 2.
I forgot already.
In Division E. Division E, Title 2.
Oh, I know about this one already.
Title 2, Executive Office of the President and funds appropriated to the President.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
Department of Homeland Security. I mean, so again, on and on and on. They have all sorts of crap in here because they're like, hey, if we could just shove it in here, we can make this pig blanket a little bit better, right? You know, like everybody would like that. Everybody wants that. So we can skip all of this stuff, right? You know, so they talk about this being an act, right?
Mhm.
So it's an act, which is important in itself as being defined as an act rather than a bill specifically, you know, right? And they talk about who submitted it. They talk about the appropriations,
So
availability
basically,
of funds.
to break it up real quick, a bill is proposed legislation under consideration by legislation. It does not become law until passed by the legislature. And then once the bill has been enacted into law, it's called the act of the legislature.
Yep. So in divisions A through M of this act, the term coronavirus means SARS. Okay, great. Thanks for telling us. There's just so much. Again, a lot of this is just legal, arbitrary juncture. So now here necessary expenses of the office of secretary for $47 million will be available, but not to exceed 1.3. So it's like, okay, and this just reminds me of like a Monty Python skit. Like that's like, you shall get 47 million, but it shall not exceed 5.1 million, to not exceed 1.3 million, or
Well,
to not exceed 7 million.
Each not exceed is a section of the office of the secretary.
Yeah, I know.
But
But it's just ridiculous, right? Yeah, like, so whatever. We're gonna skip past, keep moving, keep moving. All right, so they're going to spend 24 million, of which 8 million of that will be grants for conservative agreements for policy research. Okay, so that this here has nothing to do with COVID relief at all.
Well, I mean, grant research, scientific research, not current existing research, but yeah, I know what you mean.
But it not needed, 100% not needed, right? So then they're going to put 9 million for budget and program analysis. For a CIO, they're going to put $66 billion to the CIO for cybersecurity requirements for the department. Again, not needed. I don't know. Do we even need to go through this? I mean, like, what is needed?
Well, I guess, Keith,
what do you need any of this for?
So here's just a simple layperson's question then, right? We know this thing is full of stuff, 5,000 something pages. If someone said to you, here's the COVID relief bill, what do you think should be in it?
Everything to do with COVID relief for the citizens.
And then maybe some industrial stuff, right? So some infrastructure things, right? So like we've got a healthcare system. We need to support some of the infrastructural spending that'll be necessary to get the medicines from the factories and from the research facilities to the humans. Okay. And we'll probably need a little bit of money to pay logistics for management. And then, you know, what else? We need some support because there's businesses that have been hurt. That's oversight, small business, local chamber of commerce, whatever. But like defense spending.
Yep. So they're gonna.
You know,
okay.
so like that's part of the thing here. It's just,
and we can go through that. Like that's I searching for COVID, right? Here's 1 out of 714 references of COVID. They're gonna give money to the Consolidated Farm and Rural Development Act because they're distressed. Okay.
And that's a legitimate, valid thing. So like what we really need is we need what do they call when we used to proofread each other's papers in school, right? You would submit your paper and then a bunch of your peers would be like, this is not necessary, this is not necessary, and you would get all the stuff and get rid of all the stuff that's unnecessary, and then finally you would submit a final paper that didn't have a bunch of garbage in it. Like we just don't have that process for
maybe it is. So here's 5 million. Maybe you could start adding it up, right? Let's go back. Let's add this up. Oh, they don't tell us how much the grants are.
No.
Oh, okay.
But
all right, so the next one is 5 million for health and safety, right?
Okay.
Okay. That's fair for attending physicians. $5 million for attending physicians to keep them employed. All right, $1.1 billion for research and clinical trials. That's important, right? We would agree with that. I agree with that. Now,
So
here's the
basically,
thing.
you're saying if we did a Control F for the word COVID, and if the section
That's what I'm doing. Yep.
That's what I mean. If you did a Control F for the word COVID in this bill, and the section that you're in has the word COVID, if it doesn't say COVID anywhere in that section, it should be nixed unless there's a very, very specific reason. I think you could have cut half of this bill away. Probably doing that.
So far, I have 714 references of it. So even if they were each 2 pages long, that's still only 1,500 pages, right? You know, so there you go. We've already cut it down 4,000 fucking pages. So here you go. 1.1 billion. I will say COVID research is necessary. I accept that.
Easily associated with a COVID relief bill is research about COVID. I mean, now if they were saying like we need to make sure that we have the gonorrhea research committee properly funded, it was like, although there is an STD issue with people being kind of locked in their houses and not being able to go to doctors much anymore. I saw some interesting information on that, but in the end,
so here's $22.4 billion that they are setting aside for public health and social service emergency fund. So here you go.
Like
I'm okay with this too. But here's the problem is, and maybe the rest of this bill explains how to get this, right? But there you go. So there's $22 billion. So how many states are there? 52, right? Or 50?
50.
The 51 or 52? I don't remember.
Well,
I'm not an American. Huh?
Well, it depends. It depends on if you count, the satellites and all that stuff. But
all
yeah,
right.
This is like 52 if you
52.
count all the bits and
Thank
pieces.
you. All right. So if we talk about that, that is roughly $750,000. No, $7.5 million. $7.5 million per state. I don't know. Somebody do the math because I don't have. I can only do one thing at a time.
I didn't know what the math you were doing there. So
I'm just saying how much does each state get? So if I have $22.4 billion in emergency funds.
You're dividing that in 50 places?
Yes, 52, what you told me.
Yeah, that's basically $500 million per state.
Okay, so that's even more than I thought. That's a lot of money.
But you could also break that into kind of a little bit more of a weighted thing.
Yep, you're right. You would 100% do that, but just as rough math, that's what it is. Right?
$500 million for that thing.
And here we go. We keep. Oh, it's just in the title. It's not. Oh my God, some of these are just titles. They're not even like. So now they want to extend the CARES Act of unemployment. This is probably pretty important. Oh no, they're going to terminate it on April 5th. All right, increase of weeks. They're going to strike 39 and go to 50. It's going to be 50 weeks of unemployment. So instead of saying you're just going to get it until COVID's over, we're only going to give you 50 weeks. So essentially, if you started unemployment in April, you're only getting it till March, bitches. So that's how the fuck that works. So they're giving you another 3 months, 3.5 months of unemployment.
Yeah, that's one of the criticisms that I've seen for just about everyone associating anything that this administration has put out at all about this entire pandemic is that it seems to be replete with these arbitrary end dates and just time up moments, when in most cases, if you were doing this economically speaking, you would set aside a certain amount of funds and you would set those funds for the end of the policy. So you have $100 billion, you used 80 of that, there's 20 left over. That fund doesn't just end. You use those misappropriated $20 billion to put them somewhere that is needed inside of the allotment that is allowed. So like there's a bunch of money in local municipalities that they haven't been properly allocated due to problems with getting people in administrative or whatever. That money's just sitting there and it hasn't gotten to the small businesses that need it. Those policies ended, that money just vaporized, just gone. Like all these little companies that could use it, it's gone. And like this kind of thing here, this $5,000+ bill or page bill, that may not be as specific as it could be, you think they would spend, I guess, half the time filling it with all the trash and be more specific and be a little bit better at the stuff that they're really, really, I mean, pet projects and all that kind of stuff is what muddles this up.
I mean, here they wanted to put in a return to work reporting program for the states to get money. Fuck you. What the fuck? Like, this is ridiculously dumb. Like, oh, we cut 80% of our workers, but we require you to tell them when they can come back to work. They can't. That's how this works. They ain't coming back. Like, you lost, dudes.
I was gonna say, like, it sounds like return to work is basically just like if they finally did come back to work, X amount of dollars for a corporation or something like. I don't know.
No. They want to put a line in to basically capture the data. They had a whole section on how we capture the data, which I don't disagree with because I'm a data guy. But still, but
in the end,
it's
like,
not important.
The theme of the story here is that if it's directly associated or at least secondarily associated, but some of these things when it comes to funding in really weird places and strange things, like tying it in, like it's egregious and I would say blatantly unethical for people in politics and senators and representatives to tie things into a COVID relief bill that have something to do with, some form of defense research. You know what I mean? Like the new Chinook drive system. Like, why is that in this? You know what I mean? Like, there's no.
That's going to create gerbs.
Yeah, but like Lockheed Martin doesn't. Lockheed Martin shouldn't have a byline in the COVID relief bill.
But gerbs.
So sorry.
So I want to go through this a minute before we do move on, though, because this says additional 2020 rebates, recovery rebate
for individuals.
Yeah, this is for individuals. It's individuals. It's up here. See, there you go. Don't be fucking incredulous. So they're essentially talking. They shall be allowed as a credit against the tax imposed. So this is not. And again, I could be wrong because I'm not a tax expert, but this is a credit. This is not you getting a free $600. This tells me, oh, we're going to give you another $600 out of what what we would normally give you. And I could be wrong. We could go back and read the other one that passed.
No, it's the same. It's the same language as they use in the other one. So like when you give someone, it's a credit or a debt to your taxable whatever. And so if you said everybody in the country gets a $600 credit on what you would have paid in taxes, you would have paid that $600 in taxes, but now you don't have to report that $600. So that $600 just ping appears.
So the question though is when I have to file my taxes next year,
yeah,
am I going to get $600 less back?
No, you'll get the you would get the basically the same amount that you would have had for return. What it is you don't have to pay taxes on $600 of that money, that of like income or whatever that would.
Okay, so it's just giving me another deductible.
Basically,
it's giving me free income, a deductible. Yeah. So they're saying you're going to get $600 in cash, and we're going to say if your income was $50,000 last year, we're now going to say it's 54.
Yeah, if you didn't lose any income. If you didn't lose any income, so if you made $50,000 the year before and you made $50,000 this year, you would get $50,000, $600, but you would only pay taxes on the $50,000.
Okay, well then that's better than what I thought. Yeah. When I originally read this, it's like you tell me, now it's going to come out of my money. Like fuck you.
That language confused a lot of people, and that's what people were worried about. They were like, "I don't want this $1,200 if I got to pay it back, or if it's going to cut my rebate at the end of the year." They were worried that the rebate they were going to get, it was like $1,200, but I'm going to get no tax return next year. And they're like, no, that's not how this works. So it's the difference when it's like when we talk about scientific theory versus I have a theory. It's like the language and law and taxes and accounting, like laypersons and common context versus the specifics for legal, whatever it is you kind of call this mumbo jumbo. And here it does make a difference.
All right. So fine. I don't know what else you want to go through. I mean, the problem
It's
is
just
everybody's
frustrating.
claiming there's a lot of stuff buried in here. And I'm not 100% as sold on that reading through some of this as I was before. That there's a lot of stuff buried in here. Because when we talk about what happens with, COVID relief, we talk about what happens with budgets, if this is truly adding to our budget deficit, this is not a budget shoring up, right? It's not them just saying, well, this budget, therefore, blah, blah, blah. That's not what it's doing. It's saying this is an additional budget that we need, and we need to pass this, and everything in here is supposed to be related to COVID. But a lot of people are claiming there's stuff in here that's going overseas to places like Israel and Iran and all these other places. That's what people are concerned about.
Yeah, there are some small, tiny little bits that's considered other spending, and I'm trying to pull it in right now. This is so like I'm in a couple of subreddits, and one of them is Data is Beautiful. Oh, it's the most beautiful place. But they break everything down, and one of the biggest graphics that people have been looking at. I'm trying to find the $900 billion one, but this I'm putting it in the Facebook chat right now so that you could bring up. This is for the 200 or the $2 trillion one, that just so you can see the graphic, and I'll see if I can bring in the 900. So if you want to pull that up, it's essentially a video, a separate. It's a ribbon graphic, and so it's really, really easy to see where all the bits and pieces go. So if you see the way that shape is, you get the pie and you get all the slices. Now this one is the $2 trillion proposal that came out, and I'm trying to find the other one. But if you can zoom in on it, if you look in on what it has on there, it's what it does is it breaks down each section and segment. But what that does is that allows you to see like other spending and all that kind of stuff. So COVID stimulus.
I don't know. You have to show me where you want me to go. I mean, all it does say is small business. They're going to give new loans of $350 billion.
Yeah. Well, so like when you were flipping through that, the entire stimulus. So each of those sections, it doesn't give you, the how, the what, and the why. It just gives you that number, and that's what that basically is. And so it's all those little tiny slips and in the thread. So that's what I was trying to find here. So, but either way, so like you get the concept of it, and so. What we would have on that is that we would basically be able to cut all slices. And one of those slices, if we can find it, it was other spending, and that had a bunch of defense stuff in it. That had a bunch of things that were assistance to foreign aid, which foreign aid and COVID can potentially be a real thing if you're helping countries that need help fighting COVID. Like there is a way to make it work, and but let me if you wanted to move on, but basically if I can find the graphic, we'll include it in the description, and we'll bring it in. But this cutout for the $900 billion stimulus that we were just talking about, that if I can find the image, really clarifies all of the sections that we were looking through. It doesn't give you very much data as far as the specifics, but it breaks down each little section, because that's what someone did, is they went through like we did and just types in each number for each slice of the pie. So this is probably the graphic that I use the most to try to visualize what's happening.
This is a bad group for me to be in.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I pulled it up myself.
I recommend it to anyone and everyone. It's such a great place.
I mean, you did see Steam hourly usage by gameplay. This one is trophies by gameplay. I mean, I could just literally sit here for hours and hours. And anyway,
so yeah. Anyways, I've opened you up to a door. We'll return back to it. I'm sure this will be something in your quick saves in the near future.
Anyway, yep. So what I wanted to really get into personally was a discussion about how these bills are formed, right? Because the big thing here is the bills are formed in a completely different way than we understand, right? And like, I didn't get this. Like, I understand the basic concept of how a bill is written, how all these things pull together, blah, 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 blah. But the big thing is what they do is, like you said earlier, Keith, was you have a bill and you put a bunch of, shit in it. So it's like, I have a taco, and my taco really should only be meat, onions, and cilantro. That's it. That's what goes in a taco. It should have a corn shell. I don't fucking want or corn tortilla shell. I don't want no flour.
Tortilla.
Not at all.
Yeah, we gotta have
me.
masa. We're going maize all the way here.
And really and then I should get a side of salsa, medium or hot, whatever is your preference. And if you have to have cheese on it, fine. I don't agree with that. I do eat cheese on mine sometimes. I won't lie, because cheese is good, and I'm a white fat American that loves cheese. But you don't have to have it on a taco, a main taco. So like in my world, like if I add cheese to mine, I'm adding a little bit into my bill. So my bill is supposed to be COVID relief, like we talked about. I see it as extending unemployment, extending necessary services, extending help to small businesses, and extending research. That's what I see in my bill. I don't know what that would come up to. I just know that that's how I see my bill. And then if I want to add a little bit of cheese, it's going to be, it's because I need to add a little bit in there for big businesses because I don't want them to stop funding my presidential campaign, so got to throw a little bit of cheese on there for them, because we got to help them a little bit. And then, when all of a sudden Hanna goes, well, I want fucking habaneros on mine. It's like, well, that's not what goes on a taco. He's like, no, you don't get it. That's how this works. I want some habaneros. I'm like, well, I'm just going to veto your habaneros. And you're like, no. You can't veto one item on a taco.
We all want tacos.
Yeah, we all want these tacos. You could veto the whole taco, but you aren't allowed to veto habaneros. So if we rule that, or vote, if we vote, everybody gets habaneros, and the majority says that, y'all getting habaneros on your taco. That's how this works. And then Keith's going to come in and be like, hey, guys, that's way too hot for me. So I need some fucking sour cream on mine and some lime juice. And you know what? Fuck it. I got to have a little bit of tequila to wash this down with because I don't know how else to get rid of the burn. This is the only way I can do this. So I'm going to add some sour cream, and I'm going to add some lime juice, and I'm going to add some tequila shots on the side. And I'm sorry, it's going to cost you an extra couple billion, but hey, don't worry about it. That's what we need for these tacos. And I'm sitting here going, God damn it, I don't fucking want no sour cream. Who the fuck has sour cream on tacos? Who eats sour cream on tacos unless you're white? Nobody.
Puppy kicker. People who get puppies, they're the ones who put sour cream on tacos.
And Canadians and fucking Keats. Those are the people that eat sour cream on tacos. Gross. You do. I got pictures of this shit, bro. I got pictures.
I'd like to see those because that's confusing, and I guarantee it's not
in most cases.
Don't make me spit my scotch out. But anyway, so what's happening is we're putting a bunch of riders in here, is what they call them. And
so
and then all of a sudden
we want tacos, but everyone wants different stuff.
A little bit more, and we just keep adding up. Then Hanna goes, I'm going to tell you what. If we don't put anchovies in here, fuck this. This is not a taco without anchovies. We're like, what? Who does that? You're like, no.
You can't pick on handicapped people like that.
I need anchovies. I need anchovies because they're hurting the environment, folks. So without these anchovies, it's just going to ruin the environment's going to crash and burn.
If I don't eat anchovies, my hearing aids won't be lubricated properly. I won't be able to hear.
And we're sitting here going, no one wants anchovies. How do we get rid of this? So that's when the president or me has to reject this.
That's when
we have
say
to reject it.
They're not going to vote for the socialists.
Yeah, because you got to stop putting those poison pills. Stop putting this poison pill shit up in my taco here, Mr. Hanna. And then I go, hey Keith, I need you to get your side to tell Hanna's side there ain't no fucking anchovies. It doesn't work like that. We're not having anchovies. Do you want a bill or do you not want a bill? We just shut the government down. That's how this works.
Yeah.
We just do that. We don't have to, and nobody gets tacos. And then Hannah goes, all right, fine. I won't put the anchovies on, but can I put a little bit of pickled greens? And you're like, what the fuck? Why do I get a second poison pill? Will you stop trying to put pickled shit on here? Nobody eats pickled shit on tacos. And Hannah's like, no,
Okay,
nope.
so
There'll
here's
be
the thing.
dead babies without this. There's dead babies without this.
Bill Burr, we get it. You can take the joke. You can keep going.
We're just going to keep
All
going.
of
We're
the
just gonna
examples
run.
are valid. All of the
Yes.
examples are
You
valid.
like anchovies and pickled whatever I
No,
said.
I don't like any of these things.
And you
but
like abortion, you hate abortion, and
the
you fucking
metaphor
love...
has landed.
All right.
The metaphor
anyway,
has landed.
They call these things Christmas tree bills because people
Yes.
pack this shit full. And when you have a Christmas tree, do you not put ornaments on? And like when you have kids, it gets even worse because then your kids want to put their ornaments on. And you're like, honey, I only got room for like
All the
15
all the
ornaments. And
candy
you're like,
canes
nope,
go in like 6 spots.
nope, yep, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna put them all in 6 spots, and we're gonna make sure they fall off and break, so you have to re-glue them or buy new ones because we're kids. That's
The
how that
dog
works.
is in the corner after eating all of them, twitching.
Yep, exactly. Yep, he's hoovering that shit up his nose, and you're like,
No.
damn it, Buxley,
Some
why are you
chief?
doing this?
So,
Chief, yeah.
anyways, the Christmas tree bills,
crack.
they're stuffed, they're filled. It's just chaos, and all of the things that we think of as like the holiday bloat, so like January, when you're done with all the crazy holiday eating and you're just confused and full of cheese. That's the feel of basically the bills that are going through the government.
What if
right
they
now.
don't eat cheese, Hannah?
Okay.
Turkey, ham, roast, vegan. I don't know. Yeah, I think you're poisoning the well again. That's what I think you're doing. I'm sorry. All right, I'm derailing I'm playing the Keith part tonight. All
Yeah,
right.
no kidding.
I'm just anyway, but your point though, right, is everything is shoved into one thing. And there's a reason they do this, right? So the long way around this whole policy thing is what are riders? And are riders a problem? What they
It
do
used
is
to be
they
called
take
earmarks, but yeah.
exactly. They take must pass bills and add different incentives for different sides and say we need all these things in here or we're going to shut the whole thing down. So the COVID relief bill, weirdly enough, somehow got put together with some government spending bills and unemployment to not shut it down. And instead of anybody just saying, well, let's pass a separate unemployment bill, let's pass a separate stimulus bill, they have to go, well, we need to put all these other things in here. We need to make sure that there's a safety net for the citizens, and we need to make sure big business gets $550 billion, and we need to make sure small businesses only get $35 billion because they just don't need any more than that because they're small, right? They don't need money. They just, they don't exist in the generation of making capitalism work in the same way.
What is this, a reading center for
Damn it.
ants?
Yeah, I know exactly. Like what the fuck? But you know my point though. So anyway, so they're
Yes.
taking all these things and shoving them together, and that's essentially what these riders are. And the Hyde Amendment is a huge rider, right? That's something that they've tried to push through so many times. And the Hyde Amendment prohibits federal funding for elective abortions in Medicaid, right? Because that's where the money's going, folks. Because we aren't spending money on war, and we aren't giving money to like all these charitable Christian organizations like Joel Osteen, who just happened to get $4.4 million in COVID relief funds. We aren't just giving them that, but we got to make sure we don't let the government's money go to fucking abortions because God only knows how much sin that causes and what rain of locusts we'll get from that. And that's a good rider. Then they have poison pills. That's Hannah's anchovies, his pickled greens, his pickled hams.
That is Andrew Yang's UBI. You put a UBI on there, it will poison anything it touches in the Senate. I guarantee it's unpassable.
Yeah.
I
disagree.
That's a
well,
real
okay.
world example. It's
Oh,
way
you know-
better than anchovies.
I mean, I think it's bullshit, but I agree.
Yeah, it's like them trying to defund Planned Parenthood. There you go. That's the actual example example that they give
Or
in
the
here.
opposite, the positive, 100% Planned Parenthood funding. Everyone gets an
Yes.
abortion. This is the Oprah method, right? You get an
Yep.
abortion, and you get an abortion. Everybody gets an abortion.
I want an abortion. Wait, do I?
All right.
I want
moving on.
access to them. I want access to them just in case I need one.
Fair
And so-
enough.
There we go.
You know, that's the funny thing is we talk about all these different things, right? And we talk about what they are. Is this logical, right? And not all conservatives actually agree with this. But here's the first note, right? And earlier I mentioned vetoing lines versus bills. There was a act in 1996 that actually was against Clinton. Right? And they call it the Line Item Veto Act of 96. And it was passed to allow the president to veto single objectional lines within a bill, right? So we all know the president has the right to veto bills. And then what happens after that? If he vetoes it, then what do you need to go over the president's head?
2/3 majority over this.
Exactly, which is almost impossible unless you have 2/3 majority. It's just
Or 70%. Yeah, it's a massive number.
it's huge.
Everyone
So-
else has to agree that the
Yes.
president was wrong.
Exactly. And so what happens is, so somebody said, well, why don't we give the presidential individual line veto power? Because, fuck it. Like, think about this COVID stimulus bill. The president could have gone through and said, I don't want this to go to foreign countries, and I don't want this to go to there, and I don't want this to go to there. And he could have said, oh, I don't like this $600. I'm going to cut this one part out. And then the rest of it could have gone through. But instead, he has to reject the whole
Diet
thing.
Coke on this earth to get Donald Trump to go through 5,000 pages of COVID
No,
bill.
but somebody else would tell him. But okay, but you understand my point. So they tried to, they passed
Okay,
an
we
act.
need you to do the thing for all those. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
pretty cool if someone could just hold his hand.
And guess what they did in 96? They struck it down. The Supreme Court said, nope, Clinton, you ain't getting that shit. You ain't allowed to do that. No way in hell. You either got to accept the bill and swallow it, or you either reject the whole thing.
Oh my.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a symptom of a systemic machine like the American judicial system, the American legislative system is. It definitely seems to be like they like these big puff pork bills. They love this kind of stuff. This is a part of the strategy of getting things that never would get passed, itemized and individualized, passed, right? Tie something nasty to a bunch of sweet smelling donuts, and maybe you can get your little pet project through. So like, I think it's a reality check that most of the people realize that if your intent and the things that you want and like are garbage, without these big puffy pork pills, you'll never get anything passed. Because if you're just a genuinely gross person like Ted Cruz, there's probably no chance that you would ever actually get anything passed except through your best friends. And so like, if you were supporting stuff that was just nasty, the only way you could go in is, well, if the president or the other legislators had the ability to just excise whatever nasty thing you have, they could just do it, and you would just be a lame duck. You would never actually have any use or power in government. So, I mean,
Isn't
I
there
understand
a
the
song?
logic. It just sucks.
Isn't there a song about your friends? You only got good friends if they got drugged. Isn't there a song about that? That was like a 90s song. What? I'm living in 90s hell, I guess, this week.
You only got your friends if they got drugs. What?
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna look it up in a minute. We'll come back to that. So
I don't know. I'm gonna go with "Pretty Fly for a White Guy."
nope, definitely not.
Ooh.
It's not that. We're keep moving. All right, we're gonna keep moving because I can't play the song either which way. But I'll find the name of it and I'll shout it out here in a few minutes, just to interrupt your guys' streams of thought. So here's a conservative, an actual conservative site that talks about the case against writers. So it's not just like us. Like, we're not the only people out here saying, what the fuck, folks? Why do you want to cram a bunch of shit that don't belong in tacos inside a taco? Come on. Like, eat your tacos how the fuck they were designed, add a little bit of flair, like, Guy Fieri would do, and move on with your life.
Well, conservatives should love simplicity. I mean, Keith, in Canada, are conservatives the kind of people who want like simplicity, vote for one thing, or do they love really overly complicated, crazy, difficult things?
They say they like simplicity, but they enjoy how they can make things stupid complicated so that they can make it
Or
look better in
strategic
their favor.
strategic
complicated.
complexity. But like if they're just like Jesus, God, guns, and abortion, or whatever, like they're very specific answers for all of those questions. So like conservatives in the U.S., you would think would be the same kind of way. Like they seem to love the idea of like a single centralized leader, right? Like a dictator or a single person who's like the patriarch of all American conservatism. They seem to love that idea, but they hate the idea of a centralized government and a big, complex,
Conservative king, if you will.
So like the idea here at the James Madison Institute doesn't really like riders. They like simple bills, cut down, cut to the point. You would think that would make sense, right? I don't know. It seems like it would, because like I would picture if you're going to tell me that one party is going to make something intensely and deeply and thoroughly complicated and difficult to navigate, it would be progressives who have to deal with everybody except white American evangelicals or white religious Canadian folks. You know what I mean? Like without that really tight small base, you have the progressive have to absorb everybody else, and so naturally your policy is going to be way more complicated. So like you would think that conservatives would like things cut and dry and clean and clear, just like the James Madison Institute here is suggesting. It just seems like a logical thing for me.
You would think, but you'd be wrong.
Thinking, God damn it, every time. I don't know. What do you think, Chris? Like, my basic logic is that like you would think that the conservatives would like simplicity, gun, God, abortion. Like these all these questions have very simple, clear cut answers. So like legislation and laws and bills, you think the conservatives would want them cut and dry, right? They would want them clean and clear and simple, like the James Madison Institute says. I don't know. It just seems to me like that would be the party they would want authoritarian, very clear, and the Democrats would be all measly, mushy mouth.
Exactly. And that's the research I started to do was to say, okay, well, when did this start, right? When did this start? Is this something the founding fathers were like, hey, 1776, all right, by 1778, I'll tell you what, we're not going to pass this bill. We're not going to give any more money to anybody. We're going to keep collecting taxes and keep them in the storehouse, folks. But unless you allow me to pass the act that allows me to fuck chickens every night, I'm going to just shut this thing down and we're going to go home back to England. That's how this works. You want to fuck I can't fuck chickens in America. I thought this was the land of the free.
That's the best. That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie Devil's Rejects, by the way.
I know. That's why I quoted that.
You ain't gonna these chickens, are you?
Yep, exactly. And anyway, so when do these become part of American life, right?
So when did these pork bills come normal?
Yeah. Because in the 1820s is when we saw the first riders go in there. Now, that doesn't mean that they intended them to be there or not. My guess is that this was an oversight, kind of like the Second Amendment that allows you to have whatever gun you want to have and shoot every time and walk around with guns and carry semi-autos with sniper rifle things and, say you don't have to, if you want to own 70,000 guns, it's okay. We only want to track 30 of them. And you don't need a national database for any of this. We don't need, because, that's against your rights. But go ahead and own as many guns as you want. Just don't kill people. Please don't do that. Anyway, but that's, I think it's an oversight on the behalf of the founding fathers, because the way the Constitution is written, they actually talk about accepting and rejecting propositions and the reconstruction of riders back in the 1800s. They start talking about this. Should we include this? Because what they were worried about is some of the veto power, some of the power of the executive branch. And like, this is a huge, like, we could have done the whole show on this. Like, there's a lot of history here, and it's very, very amazing. Like, this is awesome history.
Well, let's touch the general, and then maybe we can break it down into more specifics. Because doing civics things in this on the show is something that is good for all of us.
Yep. So they talk about congressional riders, right, and the veto power, because that's the big thing here is what happens when the president can veto things. Hence why we saw them strike
Everybody
down
panicked.
the line item vetoes. They did that on purpose, right? Because they want to be able to get bills through, and they want bills to be able to have a few other things. Because if you had to pass an individual bill and it had to go through the president for every individual one, and then you get somebody like Trump who goes, today, oh, that said is 3 times, I'm done, guys. Nope, we're going to cancel this bill. Oh, you said it's going to fund dead puppies and stop them from being killed? I don't care, folks. I don't care. It said is 3 times. You got to take it down to 1 is, and then I'll pass it. It's okay. I'll do that.
That's what I was saying earlier, is essentially that if you have things that are unpalatable but are necessary, they'll just never get done, ever, unless you can pair them with a big sweet treat. And so that's kind of what I'm assuming the Supreme Court was saying. It was like, listen, we have to have a working government. Otherwise, everything will just get vetoed. It'll be just a sniper, it'll be a shooting gallery out there.
So one of the ideas behind this was, and I don't want to say coercion, but they were bribing different parts of the government to accept different things, right? So this is when
politics.
The beginning.
That's what the word politics means.
Yeah, this is when politics started to happen in America, is because they were starting to say, okay, well, hold on, this president's just going to veto everything. And I don't remember who the 1800s presidents were. I guess we can look it up.
Old white guys. I remember seeing.
Yeah, well, okay,
I remember seeing at the top of the blackboard.
James Monroe. There you go. James Monroe was president in 1820.
Right.
So essentially he was the president that essentially was the person that had this started under, right? And so they talk about this because they were having issues passing different things. And this document actually talks about law reform. And we'll get to our opinions in a few minutes here. I know I've ranted more than I usually do. But this article is really good because it actually defines a legislative rider, right?
Oh, cool. So
and it goes into, here it is. Right here is where essentially they don't know whether the framers of the Constitution knew about these things, but none of this appeared till the 1820s at all. And it was essentially after the Civil War, right? Originally used by a House of Congress to coerce the House into accepting a provision that otherwise would have been rejected. So there you go. Because of executive vetoes, because of the aggressive, need to push things through, that's when they started putting other things on there. And on a base level, I'm not actually in disagreement with saying, how do I check veto power? Because this article actually talks about how presidential veto power is insane. It's very unchecked. It gives the executive branch so much power over everything that is not funny.
Growing. It's been growing over decades, but yeah.
And we should be very concerned. This is a very concerning thing, but that's a whole different. Again, that's a different topic.
Yeah, basically the intention for the executive branch and the legislative branch and the judicial branch was to check each other's, but the idea that the precedent, so like someone who presides over the executive branch, originally the president, the term president, the presider over the executive branch was considered such a low key and very low power level,
like a prime
term.
minister,
not even
or
that,
queen.
Worse than that. He was considered to be just a custodian of the executive branch. It was they wanted to avoid the idea of kingmanship, and it was a really, really cool thing that they did. And that term, and then the language over the years has turned to that people think that being a president now is considered almost a kingly title, and it's something that's changed over the years when it comes to the founding fathers' intentions and all that kind of stuff, and all of this stuff bringing the ethics of veto power and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really important in our current age, because I don't think a lot of people really know a lot of the levels of those checks and balances and the erosions that we've seen. Like in some cases you see that they're working really well, in some cases you see that they're working terrible. And I don't even remotely like to think of myself as an expert, but I'm always interested in a well-functioning government.
Yep.
But not an efficient one.
Yeah,
I always say this: efficient governments make people disappear. Very well-functioning governments take a long
What are
time
you
to
talking
do.
about? There's nothing wrong here.
Yeah.
That's how Canada works.
Mm.
Anyway, so there's an actual study that was out there that talks about veto rhetoric in legislative writers, and they actually did a study, a scientific study that talks about, whether putting all these riders in helps essentially defund the veto power of the president, right?
So the riders could undermine the veto power.
Yes, and they actually show that the pressure, and again, you have to, I can't give you access, unfortunately, but you could if you had access, you read this, but essentially they talk about how the research demonstrates that the pressure it puts on, especially in our day and age, the president and the current sitting power in Congress to get things through, that without these riders, we would have a more stale government than we already have.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy, right? So now I'm confused, right? Now I'm confused. Like, damn it, I don't want riders. I don't want your anchovies, and I don't want your fucking, pickled greens, and I don't want geese sour cream, and I just want a fucking taco. I'm okay if you put a little cheese on it. I'm okay if you put a little bit of habaneros on it. I'm okay with those two things, but anything else, fuck that shit. We're done. And so, but the problem is if I tell both of you no, then I have too much power.
And nobody gets tacos.
And then, no, I
Why are you
get the
taking away our
tacos.
tacos? Why are you
We only
taking
get
away
a
our
few
tacos?
tacos. We only get tacos my way. And that's the problem is, should I be the guy that says we get tacos this way?
You couldn't get tacos at all because Chris and Keith also had to say, yeah, we're okay. We want those other things, but we'll have tacos. But unless we all say we want tacos, you don't get tacos. And that's the reason why the whole thing has to work. Like, the idea of like the riders and all that kind of stuff, moving Congress and getting bills passed and stuff like that, the analysis I think is legit and it's accurate and it's totally great. The reason I think it's still a problem is we're looking at the wrong group of people. The people who apply the political pressure to get things passed in Congress and get things passed in the legislature are the people who don't pay attention. All of us who are like, I don't know what that bill is. I don't know what that is. We don't apply enough pressure to get shit done in Congress. Then we could, if we were all actively, like if everyone checked their local representatives page every day, what's the update? Okay, that's cool. I agree or disagree with that. It's just something as simple as that to put the pressure to make decisions on the small macro scale. Then you could have the government that makes decisions on really small things. But we are so far removed from the central governing that we have to have these big giant things that have all this stuff in there. I just, you know what I mean? Like if it was like a real democracy where one person, one vote, everybody was really, really involved, you could have that, the government where everyone and all these bills really get analyzed and whatever. I don't know if our country is capable of that. In like a utopian world, we could have that government. I just don't think that we could, because I don't think our country could ever like care enough about politics to function where everybody would do that. So like I think the riders are the next best bet. Get it stuck to something big and happy. And
so I'm going to challenge you a little bit, buddy, or other buddy,
Hanna?
second buddy, both buddy. I'm going to challenge you a little bit because there are three items that I came up with out of these articles that could help fix this, because we both understand riders are bullshit. We both know that there should not be this many riders inside of it. We know that. We need the government to be a little bit more efficient at passing bills and a little bit less bloated. And you and I both agree with that. Even if you and I don't agree with the libertarians that want less government, I want less government, but I want a more efficient government with policies being enacted and a way
You want a
to
more intelligent government.
There you go. Yeah, I want to force the policies to be enacted in a different way.
Okay,
Again,
Plato
good, bad,
and
or
your
indifferent.
philosopher kings.
Yeah. So there's 3 options.
Yeah.
The first option is, and what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read all 3. I'm gonna give you all 3 options,
Okay.
and then we'll start with Buddy, and you can give your opinions, and then we'll go to Hanna, and we'll just keep moving around between all 3 of until everybody's opinions are on the table. Because I think it's important, like these are my opinions. This is what I gleaned from the article. Because to me, I disagree with you. I don't think riders should be here, and I want them changed, and I want all of this stuff changed immediately as fast as possible. And I don't think that our government's going to do this because it doesn't benefit either party. So who the fuck does it benefit? Just you, me, and Buddy if he ever became an American. That's it. Nobody else.
All right, so what
it
are the
doesn't
3
benefit
things?
other people. All right. So, 1, we can give the president line item veto power. There you go. So that's the easiest thing is give him line item veto power. Force the president to actually read 5,500 fucking pages because maybe Biden will do that. Or maybe he won't.
Biden
Maybe
would
he'll
have people who are better
read it for
suited
him.
to read it.
So, assuming presidents will all have people who read it for them. Continue.
Either way, give them line item veto power. The second one is we can amend the Constitution. Now, this is huge. This is a big one. But you could amend the Constitution to mandate all federal legislation adhere to a single, clearly defined subject that must be plainly expressed in the bill's title, would help prevent and deter the challenges caused by riders and other bullshit legislation. Such an effort would constitute truly meaningful reform, and riders work to the benefit of all of its members. Because Congress would not just be able to throw anything in there. They're going to have to throw something that aligns with the bill in there. So again, we talk about COVID relief, and I'm going to give me a second. I'm going to give an example real quick. COVID relief says, I want to give $600 to everybody. I want to extend unemployment benefits to everybody for the next 10 weeks. And I'm going to say it's $300 extra for unemployment benefits plus whatever your base is. And then I also want to give a $22 billion slush fund for people to jack off on and, obtain it somehow. I don't know how they're going to get it, but we're going to pretend that they get it somehow.
You had me at jacking off on it.
I know you did. I know I did. And we're going to give $440 billion to small businesses under $5 million. And we're going to allow them to apply for funds, and we're going to give it to them for 50% if they lay nobody off, and blah, 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 right?
Okay.
That would be a very well-defined way to say if it doesn't apply, you can't do it. So you can't say, well, I want to defund abortion because it's going to cost more money during COVID. Nope. Immediately gone.
All legislation all legislation would be contextual.
Yes. Yep. There you go. Stop trying to. Don't bring my points down to one line. Damn it. All right. So the third one is let the Supreme Court truly define what a bill is, right? And so understanding what a bill can be and how it is defined in the Constitution, because I personally, based on what I've read, and I'm not a constitutional lawyer, this is an Andrew Torres type, situation where maybe he's a benefit to have on the show. I don't know.
R.I.P. Ed.
But
yeah, let's bring
if
him
you
on.
can get him on, there you go, Keith. That's your job. Bring Andrew Torres on. Let's have a conversation about this.
Okay.
But he actually emails me privately. Anyway, so let's moving on. So we could talk about how we can have unadulterated amendments that allow us to have a better interpretation of what a bill means. So a bill cannot be defined by a bunch of sub-legs, we'll call it. Like, we can't say your taco now has 17 legs to walk on. You only need 2 fucking legs to walk. You don't need 17. Therefore, a bill is not defined by all the provisional riders. It's defined by what's inherent in the language of Article 1, Section 7, that there is no statutory authorization, and it is needed, that it is not needed. We don't need to worry about a presidential veto because of the fact that we redefined what a bill is and clarified it for Congress and the Republic.
All right, so real quick recap. We have clarification by the Supreme Court. We have contextual bills.
Clarification of the bill definition of what can be a bill and what can go in a bill.
A duty by the Supreme Court. And then a contextual bill. Anything that can be tied to a bill has to be specifically and contextually language specific to that bill. And what was the first one again?
And then the first one was giving the president line item veto power.
Veto. Okay, Keith, after you.
Oh, shit. I am struggling to really grasp this whole thing.
Which one sounds the best, I guess? Do you think the president being able to slice and dice, or everything that has to be in a bill has to be contextually tied to that bill language-wise, or the Supreme Court, a group of however many humans, has to give us the absolute biblical view of what a bill can be?
Okay, you said biblical, so I'm going to stay right the hell away from the third one.
The perfect newborn, squeaky clean.
It's a trilogy.
I was trying.
I did layer that one because I know you're not going to pick the last one. Continue.
I was trying to see if I could find just like a quick example of a time that putting a writer in was a good thing, and I haven't really been able to find a whole lot of that. Although I did come across.
They don't exist in America.
So
just so you know,
that's it. Well, that's what I wanted to say. So basically, I wasn't sitting here doing my usual well, if this, if that, blah 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 blah, and a whole lot of couching in my opinion just to make sure that I can't get blamed for not knowing what I'm talking about. I did find out that apparently the Philippines has banned that outright. So basically, a particular bill has to have everything in that bill has to be pertaining to a particular subject. So I'm gonna. It's as much as I want to say that the president should be free to just kind of cut out nonsensical parts of bills if like line items specifically, if he looks and goes, well, that was clearly thrown in here because they thought I make myself a bad guy by not passing that thing simply because of this one line here, which again, political tactics being what they are. So I'm gonna say I don't agree with them as of now because I can't find a good example to justify agreeing or finding any little nuanced way of handling them at this particular point. I'm just going to say that no, a bill should basically be about whatever the hell's in the title, and then we just go from there. And if you want something else, you got to go for something else.
So the contextual solution, then basically it has to be related to the original premise.
Yeah,
I would agree entirely. The first one, line item, because the line item veto works great if you are in agreement with the president, right? Mm-hmm. Like if there's a progressive president who's coming out and who's like, hey, guess what? This is my view on abortion, and I'm going to line item veto all of these different bills that have all of these different things that I think are absolutely terribly progressive. I'm going to be like, no. All those things sound pretty cool. I don't know what your problem is. And so line item veto is a political thing. It's way too specific and it's way too isolated and connected in its power. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be abused by one person too specifically, and one person doesn't need to have a scalpel in the U.S. government or any other government in all reality. And then the final one, the Supreme Court or a head judicial system of whatever. Humans aren't particularly good at defining the absolute end-all perfect language for anything ever in history, ever. Right? What's the perfect bill? This is what's in a perfect bill. No, you're probably wrong. And whatever committee that you've assembled, especially the current committee now, if you asked the current committee of judicial experts, is abortion a good thing? You're probably not going to get the perfect answer. You're going to get an answer, but it won't be perfect. So the Supreme Court, nah, that's not going to work because we can't trust a group of people to make an absolute decision of finding the perfect language or structure of a bill. We can get a good one, probably constitutional. And then obviously, like I said before, there's no way that the president any one person is ever going to be able to be perfectly political and support the idea of any kind of general political consensus for the average altruistic nature. It's going to be bent in one way or the other. So the only solution is the middle of the road contextual solution, meaning that the language of a bill determines what should be in it. And the language, being an evolutionary creature, always will be contextual. So whatever you're talking about at the time that you're writing the bill, using the language that you're writing the bill in will directly determine what we're talking about and what should be in the bill. And then the only place where you can get weird on that is how far you're willing to let secondary characteristics attach. So like we talked about the COVID relief bill. If the COVID relief bill was allowing infrastructure for medical spending, okay. But should the COVID relief bill allow defense spending to help fund the new Lockheed Martin plane that's going to fly the new support drones over to the South African country that's having a really big problem with Ebola and COVID at the same time? It gets really nasty and contextual there. So that would be the only place where this would be difficult. But in the end, any bill should be directly derived contextually from the language of the topic that you're writing in. And so there's never going to be a great answer there. A more conservative or more liberal government, I don't know which one would be more efficient. And to get Chris's answer, which I know is going to be way more conservative or way more efficient than my answer. But in an effort to be as absolutely inclusive of all of the potentialities for something, like it doesn't have to be a bill about COVID. It doesn't have to be a bill about government spending, but like if that's the context of the bill, you have to create, each situation has to be specific as far as how far out you can reach and how much stuff is allowed. So like there's no really simple answer, and it sucks, but that's politics. That's why it's so nasty.
So for me, I think the big thing is like three different things, right? One is we can remove people from office that don't support these base things. Like, to me, that's simple, right? It's simple. Let's remove people that don't support change, right? Let's remove people that want to keep this the same because they want to put a conjectured bill together. Because I agree, should we curb vetoism in the president and the executive branch? Absolutely, right? Don't disagree with that, but the way to do it is not to add a bunch of outlier feelers into my bill. I don't need a bill. I don't need a taco that has roasted red peppers on it just to say, screw you, president, you don't have all the power. Like, this is not a power play here. And that's my problem is these bills become power plays and they become this huge rhetoric for fuck all, right? So for me, the big thing is give the president line item veto power, but restrict it to saying only things that don't belong to the bill can you veto. It's a compromise. I don't like compromise, but that's probably the best way to do it, is to give him the line item veto, but say the only way it can do it is if it doesn't relate and it has to go through a lawyer to understand it. Create timelines for these bills. Do not allow negotiations to happen 30 hours before the bill is due, just before shutdown. If shutdown's going to happen, come to a conclusion 2 weeks before. Allow that for conjecture. Allow that for changes. Allow that for disposition to arguments. Allow that for that. That's what this is for. Not for us to sit here and go, let's let the timeline. Oh, here's a 5,500 page bill. 4 hours, read it, go. Because you just created government waste. Because I gotta hire fucking 17 lawyers to fucking read this shit and tell me if it's fucking logical or not. So don't fucking give me a bill that's 5,500 fucking pages 30 hours before it's due. Go fuck yourself. We get X time, create time standards, and create timelines that allow for things to happen. Because in business, that's how things work. Like when my business gets down to the crunch and we got a large client, like a $10 million client we're bidding on, and we're 2 days before we have to submit a proposal with pricing and all this, you know what happens? We work like 10 to 12 hours in a day to get that shit done if we ain't got it done. And when the owner of the company goes, I don't want to have to do this anymore, what are you going to do to change that? And my answer is let's create constructed timelines that give us feedback at certain points and create decision points earlier in the process so we don't have to fucking do this, like 2 days before it's due. The last thing is allow for a coalition to analyze and subject these bills to a logical reference, the same as what Hannah's saying. It's got to relate to it. Yep. We have to have a relation. If it's not related to the bill, we have a coalition that passes it through. If the coalition doesn't pass it through, fuck it. And I don't care. Let the coalition be made up of neutral parties, of parties from both sides. I don't care. I don't give a shit. It's like, don't allow my tamale or my taco to be diluted. And when my coalition says your taco's diluted, the first fucking thing I'm going to say is take it back to the kitchen, give me another one. That's simple. And here's the deal.
I'm going to need a new
so those to me, that's the easiest way to handle this, right? The easiest way to handle that and create a concise and constructive process that we can all live by. Now, with that being said, we have one last segment of the show, and I know we're going long tonight, folks, and I apologize. I'll be honest, I'm very excited by this. I did a lot of research on this. I spent 8 to 10 hours reading about this stuff, honestly.
Oh, was this your quick save? Holy crap.
No, not my quick
Let's
save.
be quick, man.
No, my quick save, I did not.
So also, just before we do the quick save, I found the link to the $900 billion stimulus thing. It's in our document, so we'll be able to share it. So anyone who's interested in finding that graphic, if you scroll down eventually in the description, it will be there eventually, and we'll put it on our page or something on our Facebook and our Instagram and all that kind of stuff too.
Yep. My quick save of the week is, why the fuck do I live in fucking America when I could live somewhere else and have Krampus parades? Tell me, Hannah. Tell me how you are not wanting to ditch your home and move somewhere with Krampus. Like you and I like Christmas more than you, and you're a Grinch compared to me, but we both love Krampus. Look at this. Look at this. These people are dressed up as Krampuses. This is awesome. Look, they got homemade drums, and they're walking through the streets. Oh, my god!
It looks like he's banging on just like a what appears to be
like a car
can.
radiator or some shit like that.
It's a gas. It's
Gas
basically
tank.
a gas
There you
tank
go.
from a car. Yeah. I don't know. For me, like the Krampus was so cool, but like my kids,
I love the Krampus.
dude. I have 2 little girls, man. Like Frozen is scary sometimes. Like I just, it's gonna be years before I could even have fun. Jack Skellington can scare people in my house. So
yeah,
Krampus.
But again, Hannah, it's all about creating a condition. If you start them young, look, come on. How do you not want to go? Look, that dude's playing a little flute thing. That guy's jumping around. They got a fire pit in the middle. There's Krampus is playing.
One person farts the wrong way, and all that loose earth. I mean, there's someone in the.
It's
Either
like a
way,
drum circle.
Yeah, dude.
Somebody
The Krampus
farts the wrong
stuff's
way, and next thing you know, poof, there goes the costume.
All right, no.
I
No.
am jealous of the iconography. I'm
It
jealous.
is. That is actually
That's all I can
seriously
say.
awesome.
All right,
I'm jealous.
maybe this is what we should do. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should all buy Krampus costumes and then have somebody videotape us doing our own Krampus parade in our small hometown. Fuck the world. Your wife, all of our wives, that's what I'm going to do. I'm committing to this. I'm going to get my wife involved. She's going to hate this. She's going to curse me out like you don't believe.
So you're basically asking me to walk around in what appears to be a
Crazy Krampus outfit. Yep.
a horned grass suit with a gas can around my neck, and to walk and bang a drum up
Yep.
and down a street
Yep.
in the middle of
Yep.
conservative.
Yes. 100%.
Mayfield Heights, Ohio.
What part of this is lost on you at this point, Hannah?
I don't.
The part where
I'm
the cops
confused.
called on me and I had to explain to the police officers why the handicapped kid in the weird house is making noise.
Look at these. Look at this. I'm sorry. Like, this is amazing.
Those are the wacky Krampus.
But that's okay. You could be a wacky Krampus then.
Okay,
oh my
so
God, look.
maybe we can do that. Maybe we can do Goofy Krampus, and it's not so terrifying, and my kids would be a little bit more accessible.
Oh my God, like I'm sorry.
The thing is,
like I told my wife, if we can afford
kids...
it next year, I want to go to Austria or some other place. Like, fuck the world. Let's go somewhere for Christmas. It'll be our Christmas present to everybody. It'll be a unique experience. I just want to see a live Krampus parade in a small town. Like, I mean, come on.
With coconuts on your butt?
Oh my God. This is fucking amazing. Like, sorry. I love this so much. I don't know why I live in America. I don't want to be here. I hate Trump. I hate Biden. I hate all this stuff. I love Krampus, and I don't want to live in this world anymore without Krampus.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
I told you the story. Did I tell you the story? My daughter had to have a they were doing this like scavenger hunt, and she's up here. I'm working at my desk, and behind me at the table my daughter is, and they're like find something that starts with K. And I was like, oh, I got something. And like, I got up on my shelf and I showed you my Krampus, didn't I? I have a Krampus on the shelf, and I pull it down and I give it to her. I was like, show him this. And so like, she shows her teacher and her whole class, and she was like, Krampus. And the teacher was like, oh, okay,
What's a
cool.
Krampus?
Moving on. Like, no, they just kept moving on. And then my daughter was like, my dad gave that to me. And then she's like, oh, okay. And she's like, it's an evil Christmas Santa. And she's like, next. Like, just keep moving.
Then she slings the mute ban hammer down on the Zoom call. Silence, child. This information is being streamed to China right now.
Exactly. I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, for me, Krampus is one of the best things in the whole wide world, and
it's pretty good.
It's almost as good as Letterkenny. Not quite. No, actually, it's better than Letterkenny.
I actually changed this in the middle of the show. I went through and I changed all of the documents, so this is my quick save and not what I previously had, because this just popped up on my Facebook my Reddit when Chris had mentioned Reddit, because I was going to go to Data is Beautiful, and that just happened to be the link at the top. So what this is so some of you may be aware, if you're a Letterkenny fan, season 9 just dropped. I've already burned through it once, and I'm planning on burning it through it another time or two this week.
Hold on. No spoilers. I'm only on episode 4. No spoilers. If you give a spoiler, I'm banning you from the show. Like, it'll be instantaneous.
Oh, I wouldn't dream of it. That's not a real fan. That's not what real fans do. So anyways.
See, I can do it.
Anyway,
just remember that.
What's the drinking game? Please, just tell me what the drinking game is.
Letterkenny drinking game is, and it's you take a sip whenever people say during specific things. So, for example, whenever the main character Wayne says "hard no," whenever the hockey players Riley and Jonesy share a celebratory fist bump, whenever you have multiple characters whispering in unison "Bonnie McMurray," or when Bonnie shamelessly hits on Wayne. Whenever Stuart brings up the dark web, whenever Stuart's buddy Roald goes "stir," whenever the hockey players say "Ferda," things like that, that's when you take a sip.
So basically, you should have your glass in your mouth and be slowly pouring it in your face the entire time.
Only for when that's happening. Then you pour it a little more hardcorely into your face. If, say, Stuart hits somebody with a force choke. Anytime Shorzy shows up and tells somebody to give their balls a tug. Whenever Squirrely Dan says something like, "Did you ever notice?" Whenever
Are any of the people on screen breathing? Have a sip.
And then you just completely finish off your drink anytime you spot a famous Canadian making a cameo. So they have Jay Baruchel, who showed up and was Hard Right Jay, or Tessa Bonham, who is the sports caster who was a sportscaster. Anytime there's a musical montage fight, Jonesy and Riley talking about or hit up leg day at the gym. Anytime they go, to be fair,
To be fair,
or anytime that Shorzy works out naked.
but,
Again, this is just a fantastic way to, if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet and you're looking forward to it, make sure you get a couple of puppers going, because you're gonna go through a few. And then
it sounds like you're gonna have to watch you're gonna have to watch the seasons a few times, because by the time you get to the end of the season, you're gonna start being inebriated. You're not gonna remember the last couple episodes. You're gonna have to start all over again.
Exactly.
maybe. Ugh. Good one.
Thank you.
It's not me. It's my ad blocker. So I had an argument, and a family human person didn't agree with me and think that it existed that Massachusetts at one point had banned the celebration of Christmas because it was pagan and had all of the problems in it. So the link here is it's from the history. The history buffs. They do a nice job explaining basically what had happened, kind of what had gone through from England in the 1630s and Massachusetts Bay and Puritans, and how kind of just absolutely crazy strict these people were. But it's just a fun example of Christians out Christianing themselves, and it's a bit of history where people realizing that the thing that they think the atheists are attacking, or that the progressives are attacking, or the mainstream whatevers are attacking, they actually used to attack more so, and were absolutely downright nasty about the old Yuletide logs and Saturnalia. So it's a fun read, because when you have that information, it's a different thing than just saying like, well, we're not attacking your holiday season or whatever. It's you guys actually attacked and obliterated it, and then you said no, we're actually going to allow it. So it's a fun historical lesson, and it's from a different angle than that's what you usually get. So I figured that would be a good one for anyone who's just kind of dealing with the withdrawals of the holiday season, and they're not quite full on into Krampus regalia, but the new year is just going to start their little hearts ablaze.
Well, awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us. As we close the episode out, I'm going to be eating an authentic tamale.
A tackle?
Just to prove my sister-in-law, whose name I won't mention just for authentic sake, but she makes me tamales.
In a corn husk, man.
Straight
up.
Yep. This is an authentic tamale. No anchovies that Hanna like. No pickled, whatever. No cheese. It's amazing. And you're gonna listen.
If Tanner ever comes visit me in Cleveland, I'm gonna feed him a tamale taco or an anchovy taco.
I'll never eat it. I'll never fucking eat it. Well, fuck you, dude. I will 100% come to Cleveland. Whew. A little spicy. I need more scotch. Wash it down. But I will 100% come to Cleveland. I love the Cleveland Hall of Fame. And I do like stuff in Ohio. I just hate Ohio. I don't know, maybe we should do like a whole segment where I just eat food. Like, this is authentic.
I would rather just end the show and go eat food myself.
Well, you could have brought it to the show. I mean,
no.
It's an authentic. We're gonna do authentic tacos next time.
Oh God.
And you can only eat them the way Tanner tells you. No sour cream, Keith.
Welcome to the Salador Skeptics. We hate you cooking hour. Everything you're doing is wrong, and shut up.
Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another amazing episode of Stellar Door Skeptics.
Yay.